Torah tells us that if we don't behave properly in Eretz Yisrael, Hashem will toss us out of Eretz Yisrael. And the question really is, that's like going from the frying pan into the fire. Meaning, Hashem punishes, He doesn't do it to be vindictive. He doesn't do it to take vengeance. It's always supposed to be instructive and purposeful. In fact, the word punishment in Hebrew is onesh, and onesh comes from a combination of two words, the letter ayin and nash. Ayin means I or see, and nash means you have fallen. Ayin nash, see you have fallen. The purpose of punishment is to point out that we've missed the mark, right? So if that's the case, what would the benefit of Hashem tossing us into Golus be? If we're not behaving in Eretz Yisrael, it'll be 10 times worse in the Chutz La'aretz. So what's the point of that? It's interesting that the Ramban asks, how come the city of Stone was leveled because of their misbehavior? Certainly there were other countries that also had such levels of misbehavior. The Ramban says, well, the reason why Stone was held to such a high standard is because Stone is in Eretz Yisrael. What does that mean? So why would that require a high standard? What does that mean? You know, so I remember a guy I once spoke with, a very wealthy guy who was looking to make Aliyah, and he was looking at different places, and he was talking about he mentioned the old city. He said, Rabbi, I can't do the old city. I said, why not? Because it's kind of claustrophobic, there's no roads. He goes, no. I can't have my window facing the kotel. I can never sit there. Like I don't want that. I don't want that presence there, right? And there's a truth, but that works. It cuts both ways. It's because there's a certain palpable kedusha to Eretz Yisrael. You can really sense the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. So we're held more accountable because we can see Hashem more clearly in Eretz Yisrael. And so Stone was held more accountable specifically because it was in Eretz Yisrael. And that's actually what Hashem does when He throws into Golus. When a person's in Eretz Yisrael, or the person is able to connect to Hashem directly, and they choose not to, that's an act of rebellion. That's a merida. I know you exist, Hashem, and I don't care. That's a much harder place to get back into tshuva, because you're making a conscious effort to go against Hashem. But what happens if you're not really against Hashem? You really believe in Hashem, but listen, you have temptation, you're distracted. So that's an easier maneuver back, because you realize, I really want to have a relationship with Hashem, but I'm weak, I get distracted. So that's easier to get back into. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually does us a favor. When we're in Eretz Yisrael and if we're sinning, Hashem says, this is not good. Now you're doing an act of rebellion. An act of rebellion, it's going to be very hard for you to kind of make that return. I'm going to send you out to Chutz La'aretz, where now you kind of lose your way. And now it's not going to be an act of rebellion anymore. You're not going to make a conscious effort to rebel. Now it's simply because you lost your way, and you get taken over by consumerism and then every other ism. And so then it's an easier way back, actually, from there than from a proactive stance of merida, of rebellion. So really moving out of Eretz Yisrael is a way to get us to get close to Hashem when we're actually if we're in a state of merida, state of rebellion. So that's a really important concept to realize that in Eretz Yisrael we're held to a higher standard because in Eretz Yisrael we can feel the kedusha more. I think I've told you once, Eretz Yisrael, the same letters, which is different than Kudot, say Arutz, Yashar, Kel. I can run straight to God. Arutz, Eretz, Arutz, I can run Yashar, El, straight Yisrael, Yashar El. In Israel, you can run straight to God. There's no barrier, so to speak, or much less barrier. In fact, that's why it says if a person lives outside of Eretz Yisrael, it's like he's worshiping Avodah Zarah. A person lives outside of Israel, it's like he's committed idolatry. That's hard to understand. What does it mean you're committing idolatry living outside of Israel? But what it means is that in Israel there's a direct line to HaKadosh Baruch Hu without any barriers. Outside of Israel there are much more barriers. It's called mazalot and different ways that the flow from Hashem comes to this world. But because there are outside barriers, the Torah considers that Avodah Zarah, because you're not dealing directly with Hashem. Avodah Zarah is like an intermediary. So it doesn't mean literally that person lives in Chutz La'aretz is serving idolatry. But what it means is he's not benefiting from a direct relationship in the way you would in Eretz Yisrael, and that's the case.
But there's also no clarity in Chutz La'aretz, and it's so the other side is it's really not a gift to be outside of the land.
No one's saying it's a gift. No. We're not saying it's a gift. We want to be in Eretz Yisrael, that's certainty. But you don't want to be in Eretz Yisrael in a state of active rebellion. As a nation, we're talking about individuals now. It's more like from a national level. But what's also interesting is that, you know, that the Mabul, I'm just trying to bring differences, the Mabul destroyed all the world except Eretz Yisrael. The Mabul did not impact Eretz Yisrael. The water could have seeped in, but there was no damage done in that sense. That's what the Midrash would tell us. It's fascinating because the Mabul didn't just destroy the land, all the atmospheric,
Everything got
everything, the air, the atmosphere, everything got corrupted and destroyed. Well, then it makes perfect sense. There's an expression in Hebrew, Chazal, Avira de Eretz Yisrael machkim. The ear of Israel makes you wiser. That's something about the ear. Avira de Eretz Yisrael, the ear of Israel makes you wiser. Machkim. What does that mean? But now we can understand. The entire world was on a much higher level before the Mabul, and post-Mabul reduced everything into a much lower level. But if the Mabul never took place in Eretz Yisrael, that means that ear always remained the same pure ear that God created initially for Adam and Eve. So we still benefit from that, so to speak, that atmospheric condition in Eretz Yisrael that the rest of the world kind of lost and was reduced by through the Mabul. It's a fascinating idea. So the idea of Avir Yisrael Machim, according to, and I thought, I once thought this on my own, and I saw it's Sforno pretty much says the same idea. That Avir Yisrael Machim is because of the fact that the Mabul didn't affect the Avir of Eretz Yisrael, so it retained its purity at its higher level. Also, you know, the entire earth is considered to be like one big body. There are the eyes, someplace, there are the hands, their feet. Eretz Yisrael is considered the neshama. Eretz Yisrael is the neshama of the world. Shlomo HaMelech, we know that he was able to plant, with his great wisdom, he planted fruits, exotic fruit that typically grow in certain other locations. I don't pick a fruit that doesn't grow here, I don't know, whatever it is, right? He was able to grow certain fruit that typically doesn't grow in Yerushalayim, but grows only in South America. He was able to grow in Yerushalayim. How? It wasn't he was an expert botanist, but rather Yerushalayim is the heart of the world, just like Eretz Yisrael is the neshama of the world. In Yerushalayim is the entire world is rooted in Yerushalayim. In fact, remember it says when Yaakov slept by that ladder, it says the entire world was folded up underneath him. Where was he? It was in Yerushalayim, but by the Harabayas. But that means not literally the whole world lived folded up, but it means the entire world really is sourced in Eretz Yisrael, which is sourced in Yerushalayim. Shlomo Melech was enough of Mikeach. He knew exactly where each source, where the roots were, and so he was able to plant. He said, oh, this, I don't know, let's say pineapples only grow in South America. Oh, right here in Yerushalayim is the root for the pineapple. So he was able to plant because the pineapple that grows in the Chutz La'aretz is only benefiting because it comes from the root of Yerushalayim. So everything centers around Yerushalayim. And that's why it's considered the neshama of the guf, and that's why, in the same sense, Shlomo Melech was able to plant whatever he wanted in Yerushalayim because he was tapping into the roots, which the rest of the world, you know, gets, you know, where they are. So Eretz Yisrael has that about it as well. We also know Eretz Yisrael is considered to be yofi. It's considered to be beautiful, the most beautiful of all the countries. As they're all, right? The Gemara says that Hashem gave 10 kavan of yofi to the world, 10 like bushels, and Eretz Yisrael took 9 kavan. Right, 9 bushels of beauty. So what is it about beauty that's so special? Well, the Moral talks about beauty as something nevdal. Something beautiful is always like separate and apart from everything else. It's something, it has a transcendent quality to it. And so the Yofi of Eretz Yisrael has this transcendent quality. And you know, and when you go there, you feel it. You really feel, you sense a certain beauty that's quite transcendent. But we know in Mishlei, we sing in Neishas Chayil, Shekar Achein Vehevel HaYofi, that beauty is fake if it's skin deep. Ishi Ras Hashem, Hi Tesal. I think we discussed this before. The Vilna Gaon says a beautiful shot. Shekar Chen Ve'eval Yofi. Charm and beauty are empty. Ishi Ras Hashem, a woman who's God-fearing, Hi Tesal, she should be praised on her Chen and a Yofi. So Chen and Yofi are only Shekar if they're by themselves. But if there's Yiras Hashem in that woman, then the beauty is worth extolling as well. Much like you can have a beautiful shul. So the physical beauty by itself is sheker. But if there's davening going on inside the shul, so then the physical beauty helps arouse and inspire. And that's what it's supposed to do. So physical beauty is important in context. If it's only by itself, sheker chen ve'eval yofi, as they say in English, beauty is skin deep. But if there's something depth over there, there's davening in a shul, then we want to build a beautiful shul because beauty inspires. So if there's davening, so in Eretz Yisrael, certainly the yofi of Eretz Yisrael is special. But the yofi is significant only because there's content, there's substance there also, which obviously is the Yerushalayim and the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. So there's a beauty of Eretz Yisrael, When you think about it, it's such a remarkable country. You all know it's smaller than the state of New Jersey, right? Yet, if you go to the top, you're snowing. You're skiing in the snow. You go down to Eilat, and you're in a different world, the tropics. I mean, you can't have that in any other state. New Jersey, like, you can't go to New Jersey. One part of Jersey, it's like balmy weather in the 80s. Gorgeous carrot, right? And you go top, and you're freezing. It doesn't make sense. There's something about Eretz Yisrael that just defies, the natural order. And that's because it got those 9 kavod of beauty, but the beauty is transcendent. It's nevdal, and we have to recognize what it is. And of course, you walk around Eretz Yisrael, the history of Eretz Yisrael, talks to us as wherever we go. And if you know a very sad story, sad in right near the Kotel, there's a museum called the Glass Museum. You know that Glass Museum? It's a museum that some wealthy fellow donated, and it's the history of the world, all made in glass. It starts with Adam and Eve, and takes you through the history of the world, all through glass. I don't know why he picked glass. There's a history behind it. I don't remember what the reason was. But why did he do it? Because there was an Olympics in, I want to say Italy. I don't know why in my head it says Italy. I don't know if there was an Olympics in Italy. I don't know. But I just remember in my head. Anyway, there's Olympics. And there's an Israeli team in the Olympics. And somehow they interviewed one of the Israeli young ladies who was on the Olympic team. And she said, I love Italy. So somebody asked her why I love it. She goes, because there's so much history here. Hello? Yeah. And when this man heard that, he said, can't be. You don't know the history of Eretz Yisrael, what it is from thousands, right? Right? So we have, we sometimes, perhaps you walk past it all the time. You kind of, it's an archaeological dig. You don't really spend time thinking about it. You think about it. This is where Rav and Abai, I walked in the same steps of Rav and Abai. You walk by the southern excavation, and you literally see the Mishnah describes as a mikveh, and one side of the stairs people went up, and one side people went down, because the Tomei shouldn't touch the Torah. And you mamish see that mikveh with those stairs, with the division between the two. It's mamish, everything comes alive. It's all there, and so you're really walking with the uppers walk. At the same time, we know that. We daven for the Geula Shlema, because anytime there's Kedusha, there's always a klipa until the Golus goes away. And right in the Makam Mikdash, the Kodesh Kodashim, you have the biggest klipa, you have the mosque, you have, right? It's always that way, and that's a sadness. We have to, as much as we have Eretz Yisrael, was so excited about it, it's not yet complete. There was a great rabbi, his name was Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, beautiful, famous rabbi in the 40s, and he was like, I don't know, the unofficial Rav of Yerushalayim, but he was like, he was the Rosh of everything there. And somebody went to visit him. It might have been an American dignitary, and he was told to go. He went to look for the head, the chief rabbi, whatever he was called of Yerushalayim. So he went to this person, and he expected, a chief rabbi lives in, something, beautiful. It was a hovel. I mean, Risach lived in Geula, in this tiny little. I went actually. There's a friend of mine who was a fabulously wealthy fellow, and he doesn't have to work. Okay, he inherited quite a bit of money, and what does he do? He gives out charity. So that's charity, and he goes to Eretz every few weeks and just goes around giving charity. That's what he does. Okay, right. So once he's like, "Tzvi, I want you to come with me," and he finds people that nobody knows about, that, and he took me once to a place. That he said this guy's a real big tzaddik, Talmid Chacham, which I had never heard of before, but people who knew. And you went to his house, and I'm not exaggerating. The house was a room and a half. There was a kitchen, which also served as a bedroom, and also served as a living room. It had a table, and it had like a bathroom, and that was it. And Sfarim, all over the place. And he was perfectly happy, but it was, Yosef Chaim lived in a really, like a hovel. It was like and this American fellow was like taken aback, and he said, how can you're such a special person, how can you live in such a place like this? So Chaim was like, come with me. And he pulled open the shades of a window, and his window actually overlooked the Har HaBayis. He said, as long as Hashem lives like that, I can live like this. Meaning, as long as we don't have a gula and there's still a klipa and we can't go to the kutcher and we can't go to the base of Midrash, then you think I should live in something fancier? Hashem's not living in anything fancy now. He doesn't have his home properly built, so to speak. Right? He doesn't have his home properly built. So how can I live in a properly built home, so to speak? It was a sensitivity. So, there are different ways to celebrate and express, how we love Eretz Yisrael. But this man certainly expressed it. He understood that there's an Eretz Yisrael, there's a Kedusha, and if Hashem doesn't have his home back, So we have to be sensitive to that as well. So we're very excited. My father is a Holocaust survivor, and he always talks about the fact that, Jews, after the war, nobody wanted us. We know that we were on ships, and they sent us back, right, back to the gas chambers. He said, Eretz Yisrael is the place that where a Jew can always go. No matter how you can, it's an incredible thing. So we're certainly grateful. We have tremendous hakaras tov, and certainly hakaras tov to soldiers that defend our lives every day. Is something that makes a difference. Religious, not religious, Shabbos, makes zero difference. They're there. They're protecting us. We have to have the tremendous hakaras tov. There's somebody started this beautiful campaign just recently called "Adopt a Fallen Soldier." You know what I'm talking about? Where there are like I think 23,000 souls that passed away over a couple of wars, and each one obviously has a name and a memory, and you could take on that person and do mitzvahs in his name, or learn his name, or daven in his name, and you actually contact the parents, because the parents feel good about this. So we actually did that in Washington, D.C. as well. We asked everybody there to adopt somebody, and when you learn, have him in mind, or if you pray, have him in mind, do a mitzvah, have him in mind, and we tell the family about it, and that family feels like then there's a schut that this soldier had. But certainly we do so. Rabbi Chaim Shmulevitz said that every Jew, every Israeli soldier that dies, is killed by a guy, is dying on Kiddush Hashem. There's no higher level of death than Kiddush Hashem, and that's what we have to realize. We all have this tremendous affinity to Eretz Yisrael. We all have this tremendous love of Eretz Yisrael. It's kind of built into our DNA. And we talked about this before. That comes from the fact that Hashem told Avram, Lech lecha me'artzecha el eretz asher arecha. From the very first Jew, Hashem said, go search for Eretz Yisrael, to the land which I will show you. It's always been everyone's dream and vision to get to this land, but it's kind of almost evasive and elusive, and Avram went to struggle to find it. And so for history now, it's in us, our DNA, always to have this, this want to connect to the land of Eretz Yisrael. And it's not just connecting to the physical land, which it certainly is, but it's to that relationship that the land of Eretz Yisrael gives us with that Kadosh Baruch Hu. That relationship is much fuller in Eretz Yisrael. I think I told you the story was from Nachum Mendel Vitebsk. There's a holy tzaddik lived in Poland, and all his life he dreamed to go to Eretz Yisrael. That was his nice dream, but in those days that was a pipe dream. You couldn't afford a ticket. If you could afford a ticket, you couldn't buy a ticket. They wouldn't let you on. You couldn't get a visa. It was a million reasons why it wasn't going to happen. But he dreamed, he insisted, and one day, sure enough, he collected enough money, bought himself a ticket, and he's going to go to Eretz Yisrael on a ship, which is, in those days, was fraught with danger too. It wasn't a gimme. Today was so, I asked my boys studying in high school, I said, who here has been to Eretz Yisrael? And like 2/3 of school raised their hands, which is wonderful. Today, I should go to Eretz Yisrael. Today, vacation, we go next week. It was even 40, 50 years ago. It was a plan. You planned, you dreamed, you planned for 2 years. I'm going to go to Eretz Yisrael 2 years from now, right? Baruch Hashem, now we get on, boom, boom, and it's a wonderful thing. On the other hand, when he went to Eretz Yisrael, the Hasidim told him, listen, you want to go to Eretz Yisrael, but we love you, we're happy for you, but you must write us. We've never seen pictures. Just describe it to us. We don't even know what it looks like. These people never saw Eretz Yisrael. Just write what Eretz Yisrael is. And he said, yes, of course, I'll do so. And he waited a few months, and they were kind of disappointed. And he said, I want to take it all in before I wrote. And then he wrote beautifully. He said, I have to tell you, the sky is bluer than I could ever imagine. The fruit are much more delicious. The Kedusha is more palpable. The Chayim Yishlayim, it's 10 times better than I could ever imagine. It's only one thing that's missing. I miss the longing that he used to have to go to Eretz Yisrael. Mm-hmm. I miss the longing. There's something special about that longing. So, and the way we go to Eretz Yisrael every other day. But in a way, maybe we're chasser a little bit, we're missing a little bit that longing that, when you have to work hard to get there, there's a longing, and that longing itself creates a connection. So we can never miss the longing. And even if we can hop on a plane, we should never miss the longing of Yerushalayim, and understand also, we call ourselves Zionists. The word Zion. What does the word Zion mean? Anyone know what the word Zion means? Huh?
Peace, shalom, peace.
Not really. Zion, we actually, in the Haggadah, we said that the Jews in Egypt were Mitziyonim Sham, which means they were distinct. Mitziyon means something excellent, something. Mitziyon also means something excellent, which is something distinct. But the Jews weren't Mitziyon because they didn't change their clothing, so they Mitziyonim. So it means something quite, that sticks out. It actually means a signpost. Sometimes you have a tzion over a kever, over a burial place, called a tzion. But it's actually a signpost. So what is Zion? What is Tzion? Eretz Yisrael is supposed to be a signpost for the rest of the world. We're supposed to be that sign, that illuminating sign, what the world is supposed to look like, what peace is supposed to look like, what Torah, what value is supposed to look like, what Hashem is Eretz Yisrael is supposed to be that Tzion, it's supposed to be a signpost for the rest of the world. It's supposed to be the banner for the rest of the world of what life should look like when we live lives of value, of Torah, of relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what we want. We want to be Tzionim. We want to be people that really raise the banner and be signposts to the rest of the world. That's what we're trying to be. That's ultimately what Tzion's trying to be that place that elevates the rest of the world, because it's the signpost. That's really that's really Tzion.
Excuse me, Rabbi.
Yes.
Who should enforce that? The citizens or the government?
Sorry?
Who should enforce this rule that Eretz Israel should be poster child of the whole world?
That's a minefield of a question. What? Yeah.
All these things they're doing, all these rallies they have, and these bad things that goes on.
The rallies, you mean, what do you mean?
They have gay rallies going on and this.
It is, listen, I always say, wherever there's Kedusha, there's an opposing force of Tumah. Yeah, absolutely true. I think Tel Aviv, they say, is the second largest. It's really, wherever there's Kedusha, that's where there's Tumah. And it's but I want to get into that now, but sometimes it's an act of defiance, because they, like I said, if Hashem is right there, you have to defy it. It's kind of an act of defiance. But we hope that Hashem, that Eretz Yisrael we are seeing a wave, the something of Chosrei B'Tshuva. You see a tremendous amount of that, and it's because there are special tools in Eretz Yisrael. When Yaakov traveled to Chutz La'aretz, it says Malachim Olam v'Yordim. Angel went up and the angel went down. So Rashi asks, it's the wrong order. Angels come down, then they go up. So Rashi says no, because he was traveling from Eretz Yisrael. So first the Malachim of Eretz Yisrael went up, and then the Malachim of Chutz La'aretz came down. Why do you have to have different Malachim? Because Malachim represent helpers or aids. In Eretz Yisrael, you have a higher level kind of aid than you have in Chutz La'aretz. So hopefully the Malachim in Eretz Yisrael will do their job and help everybody as well. But that's really the idea behind. Look, the payers of Eretz Yisrael, halachically speaking, you're supposed to give a bracha. You're supposed to make a bracha first on payers of Eretz Yisrael. There's a kedima. There's an order of when you make brachas. Brachas of Eretz Yisrael, payers of Eretz Yisrael, come first. So there's a Eretz Yisrael has on so many levels a certain kedusha, shmita in Eretz Yisrael. You know what shmita in Eretz Yisrael is? It's the Shabbos for the Eretz Yisrael. It's Shabbos. Just like we have Shabbos in time, Shemitah is Shabbos in space, in physical place. That's Shabbos. Only Eretz Yisrael has Shabbos, right? There's no rest of the world can't have Shabbos, not in space. So that really is the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. And like I said, the history is not just history. There's Kedusha in that history. Just one thought, and here with this part of it anyway. The Arizal, when he wanted to impart all his Kabbalistic wisdom to his Talmud, Reb Chaim Vital, you know what he did? He took him on a boat on the Kinneret. Not to have a little honeymoon kind of serenading, but he scooped out some water. He said, drink this water. He said, this water is from the Be'er of Miriam. This is the well of Miriam. Whether we understand it, how we understand it, but I'm just saying, the history of Eretz Yisrael is not just a history. There's Kedusha there. The Kinneret has the Be'er of Miriam. It's just Hafel and Fella, what Eretz Yisrael has to offer. And we can never forget and never become, callous by it. That we just take it for granted. And it wasn't just that long ago, before the 6 Day War, who had access to the Kaisel. It was a garbage dump. They treated it literally like a garbage dump. So we could never, we should never take for granted that we have access to these places. That was a tremendous gift. And it's sad if people don't appreciate that. There's a story about these two Israelis, actually by the 6 Day War, and they had made that final push, and they got to the Kosovo. So you can imagine what an emotional scene that was. And many Israelis, went to the Kosovo and were crying and crying. And then the two secular Israeli soldiers were kind of standing back because they didn't really have that connection spiritually to the world. And one Israeli was just watching, and the other one started to cry. And the first one said, why are you crying? This is not our world. He said, I'm crying because I don't understand why they're crying. Like he understood there's something there, and I'm missing it. I don't know what it is, but I'm missing it. So hopefully, if we do our job and we're seeing in the proper way, everybody else will realize that hey, they're crying about something. What are they crying about? So we got to do our job. We got to do a better job. That's what we got to do. We got to do a much better job. But hopefully, Mishim, and we'll see the Mashiach come soon and unite the world and Eretz Yisrael. And we have to understand that that's the Eretz Tzvi is supposed to stretch, supposed to be covered. It's supposed to Eretz Yisrael is going to expand its border, so to speak. It has to be collect many Jews, and it has to really again be that signpost for the rest of the world. So we have to know it. We have to know it's ours, and it's none other than the first pasuk of Bereshit that reminds us. Bereshit bar Elokim. Rashi tells us, right? We should have started with the mitzvah of Chodesh. Why start with Bereshit? Why? Rashi tells the famous Rashi, because if the Goyim say, list them at them, you're a bunch of thieves. Eretz Yisrael doesn't belong to you. It belongs to us. So we say, no, Bereshit bar Elokim. Hashem created the world.
Yeah.
He runs the world. He's the big chief. He owns it. He intended to give it to us now. It's now ours. Okay, it's really nice and cute, but try showing that to some Palestinian. Oh, by the way, I don't want you. Why are you hacking me a cup over here? So it's a Rashi. The Rashi says it belongs to us. Oh, it's a Rashi. I never knew that. Sure, right? That makes sense, right? What you're going to do? It's not for him. It's for us. We have to know. We have to have the confidence to know that no matter what the world tells us, we steal us, and they're telling us we're thieves, right? We have illegitimate land. We're thieves. That's mamish. This measure is coming alive. They're telling, and there are a lot of Jews that think, Taka, we're thieves. They think we're criminals. We're thieves.
Even people in the government in Israel are confused.
Right. And that's the medrash. The medrash says they're going to say, list them at 10. It's not for them. It's for us. We have to never lose the confidence that HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised us Eretz Yisrael. It's ours, and it's always meant to be ours, and always Mitchum will continue to be ours. Okay, let's do a little bit of the parsha, but I felt it was Yana Diyema. Talk a little bit about Eretz Yisrael.
The borders of Israel is going to go all the way from Red Sea to Euphrates River, right?
I think so, yeah. I don't know.
So how is that? So Euphrates River is between Iraq and Iran, I think, right?
No, not between. It's in Iraq and not between Iran and Iraq.
So it means complete, all Syria would be part of Israel.
Could be. Yeah.
So there must be something, the only way that this could happen is that
Well,
Syria would be destroyed completely and Israel just go take over.
I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know. I mean,
Isaiah 17, that's what they say.
Yeah. Look, we know David Melech expanded the borders up that way as well. That was Chamesh Rishos.
Also, it could be a miracle, like Beit HaMikdash, that
Yeah.
everybody came in and they fit it.
I don't know. I don't know how it's going to
Another way would be there would be another war between Iraq, Israel and Syria, and Israel will take over entire Syria.
Could be. Don't know. It's only all these are scenarios that are unfortunately are not unrealistic. Having war with Iraq, Iran, that's not an unrealistic thing.
But if that happens, would Muslims and other religions be living in Israel, or it's only going to be Jews?
Well, first of all, until Mashiach comes, all religions are going to turn to believe in monotheism.
Right.
Right. They're all going to turn to monotheism. So. Okay, let's do two short ideas. One, we mentioned last week the 4 different animals that are non-kosher, and we talked about the significance of the leg, of the chazir. And this is probably have 4 different kinds of signs of tzaras. Interesting. And again, it's connected to Gullus. Just like the 4 foods are connected to Gullus, so the 4 signs of leprosy are also Gullus. Actually, the famous Rizal Lanter says that the connection between this parsha and last parsha, the end of last parsha dealt with what you can't eat. Tazriah deals with primarily with lashon hara and tzaras. That's the outcome of lashon hara. So Rizal Lanter said the Torah is telling us you have to be careful what you put into your mouth, but you have to eat what comes out of your mouth. So Shmini deals with what comes into your mouth. Tazriah deals with what comes out of your mouth. But I want to talk about lashon hara just for a few moments. But first, I want to talk about the tzaras. It's fascinating. The tzaras had to have 2 signs to make it tummy, and it required a kohen to determine whether it was usher or not, which is interesting because typically in Hilchas Isurim, I don't need to go to kohen. If I can know that something's kosher or not, and I know my halachas, I could say, yeah, this is kosher, right? If I knew the halachas, I know, okay, a little bit of meat dropped into this huge vat of milk, and it's batal b'shishim. If I knew the halachas, no, I don't need to go to a kohen or to a rav for that matter. In these surim, laws of prohibition, I can paskin myself. So why do I need to go to the kohen to paskin whether this tzaras exists or not? What's the deal over here? It's interesting that the tzaras, I told you, had two signs. And in fact, it says, and one of them was white, had a little white to it, and one of it had whatever particular negad had. But if it's kulay nepach lelavan, if the entire thing turned into white, then it's tar. It's kind of hard to understand. Like if a little white is tamei, certainly a whole white should be tamei, right? Why does it make it right? The answer is a very beautiful, important concept rather, and that is that tumah can't exist unless there's some element of kedusha that it latches onto that gives it life. Let's say it a little differently. Falsehood can't really exist. It has no legs unless there's a little bit of truth to that story. If there's a little truth to the story, it can have legs, but total falsehood will collapse under its own weight. So every nega has a little white, which is the purity, right? Or actually it's a little impurity, so to speak, and it also has another element of it. But if it's kulei nepach lelavan, if it's totally, because white doesn't mean purity, white means actually death. If it's totally without any kedusha, has no chiyus, it collapses. It can't exist as tumah, and that's really a lesson in life that we need to figure out. That when we do an action, how do we figure out what that action is? Let's say somebody did something, and you're supposed to react to it, and you don't, and you don't react to it. And maybe you don't react to it because you know what? I'm not going to get angry. I'm not going to get upset. Or maybe you don't react because you're just too darn lazy, right? So the very same action, you have to know what's creeping into the motive. And sometimes when we do something, the action has an element of truth to it, and an element of something that's not true. The dangerous things are those things that have a little bit of truth to them. When an organization comes out with something and they're just kulay ra, it falls apart. But if they can put a little bit of truth into what they say, it gives it staying power. And it's much more. It's like if there's mold on the wall. So you can see what it is. You watch it. But let's see you paint over the mold, right? So the outside looks gleaming. So the tumor is on the inside, but the outside, right? So you have to be very careful. The Eitz Hadas had Tov and Ra separate, but when he ate from the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra and he combined Tov Ra, now he created a dangerous world. Because now in the Ra there's a little bit of Tov, and now it has some staying power because it's an element of truth that people latch onto. And any sick organization that presents whatever it presents, and they throw something that sounds a little bit truthful, that gives them legitimacy, right? They want to create something that gives them legitimacy, and then it has staying power. But it's Kula Ra, it collapses. And so you have to go to a Kohen, because in order to determine, okay, is this thing Ra, or are you getting deceived by the fact there's a little bit of Tov inside? It needs to be an objective third party that can recognize that. You can't recognize in yourself sometimes when you're doing an action and there's a little bit of Tov to it, you just focus on the Tov part and you don't see that the body of it really is bad. You need an objective party to say, no, it's really bad. That Tov, you're just throwing it to make yourself feel good. It takes away your guilt, but really, there's nothing going on. So you need to go to that Kohen, who's that third party, that objective party, say, no. Don't be deceived. This is tummy, all right? Okay, but it's a lesson in general that Ra always has a little bit of Tov to give it some staying power and some legitimacy. Okay, that's one idea. The other idea is that we know the famous story that there was a Gemara, as a Medrash, that there was a peddler from Tzipori. We talked about something, a Reichel, a peddler from Tzipori, and he was peddling. Who wants the elixir of life? Man boys samadachai. Who wants the elixir of life? And people began flocking to him. He's selling a fountain of youth. So they all came to him. I said, okay, I'll tell you. And he quoted the pasuk of B'davar Melech. That's Mia Isha Chapetz Chayim. Who's the one that wants life, right? Then he says, Nitzar L'Shana Chara. Stay away from L'Shana Hara. Everybody goes, wow, I never knew that. That's amazing, right? And the obvious question is, really, Rabbi Yana, of course you knew that. I mean, you didn't know the pasuk. What's it called? What's Rabbi getting so blown over? It was a cute little gimmick. Man bas samadachaim. I'm selling you elixir of life, and they come. Great, but Rabbi, really, you dupe it. You really thought. That, oh, now you understand what the pasuk means. So the truth is that what's really going on is we need to understand. The Medrash tells us that the second basin was destroyed because of sinas chinam, basis hatred. And we need to understand, like, what does that really mean? It means hatred based on nothing, right? That's what it means. Sinas chinam. It's hate. Well, why would you hate somebody based on nothing? What does that even mean, right? The truth is that a person who feels this hatred feels that he got a very legitimate reason for that sinas chinam. Yeah? And the Chazal say, no, it's sinas chinam. What does that mean? It means like this. It means that every person has hopefully a healthy ego, but if it's not kept in check, it just explodes, and then you become self-centric, and everything revolves around you and should revolve around you. And if it doesn't, you feel like someone's stealing your spotlight. Literally, right? So when you feel you should be the center of the attention, and yet somebody's doing something good or something that's worthwhile attention, you resent that. Because deep down you think, you know what? He's taking something that belongs to me. I am the one that should be the center. Everyone should be talking about me, so to speak. I should be the one that everyone recognizes as great. If they're talking about nice things about him, it's taking away from me and what's mine. So in his mind, this fellow took something that belonged to him. In his perception, the guy took something from him. In reality, that's not true. So when we say sinas chinam, it's a base. It doesn't mean it's a hatred that